And then people called up to say it was wrong of the person. Well, one person was very annoyed, should not have done it to a 10-year-old. So then I asked him about a 12-year-old. No, not even to a 12, 14, 16, no age. Well, that's what's happened here. We're forced to shut up. You can't comment. You can only accept. Well, it depends what you're accepting. Can't accept a Trump hat. It's no favor to a child. If a boy thinks he's a boy and dresses like a girl, is no favor to him to say, "Oh, that skirt is just wonderful on you. I love the fact that half of your hair is female and the other half is male. That you are one lucky kid to have such an understanding mom." All right, everybody. That's part of the issue. Yes, Melanie in Phoenix tells me some people are born with both parts. I know, that's a separate issue entirely, and it's also a tragedy. Thanks for listening.
Carol Marks is one of America's leading experts on upper demographic issues and a champion in the battle against ageism. She hosts a weekly radio program devoted entirely to making life better for America's seasoned citizens and their families. Getting older requires strength and courage. Getting older requires community. Getting older requires information. A Touch of Gray, the talk show for grown-ups, Sunday afternoons 1 to 2, right here on AM 970, The Answer.
Another Salem Business Breakfast is happening October 19th at Passaic County Community College in Wanacue. You'll learn tips on marketing through social media, online advertising, sports, and radio from President and founder of Blue Rock Energy, Phil Van Horn, digital marketing expert Isaac Rudansky, financial expert Gary Goldberg, and political expert and analyst Jeannie Zeno. AM 970's very own Joe Piscopo and the morning team will be broadcasting live. A gourmet breakfast from DR Catering will be served. Entry is free, but you must register online at am970theanswer.com. From the studios of AM 970 The Answer on Broadway and Wall Street in Manhattan, this is WNYM, Hackensack, New Jersey.
Already cleaning up after Irma, now another hurricane's coming. I'm Jane Metzler, Fox News. Maria, a Category 3 hurricane, heading to places in the Caribbean already hammered by Hurricane Irma. And that's not the only storm of concern. Fox's Evan Brown live from Miami.
Jane, last hour's advisory from the National Hurricane Center says Maria's winds are a bit stronger now at 125 miles an hour. And that storm's eye is just off the coast of the islands of Martinique and Dominica. Many of the same Caribbean islands which took the brunt of Irma are likely to get the same from Maria. Puerto Rico already declared a state of emergency. Hurricane Jose is still near the coasts of New Jersey, New York, and New England, and tropical storm watches and warnings are already posted there, Jane.
Thanks, Evan. His first address to the UN General Assembly's tomorrow, but President Trump has a lot going on there today. Fox's John Decker has the latest live.
President Trump's day began with a session on reforming the United Nations, something the president had advocated since running for the White House. A bilateral meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu followed, with the president expressing his optimism for achieving a Middle East peace deal.
Peace between the Palestinians and Israel would be a fantastic achievement, and we are giving it an absolute go.
The president will soon meet with French President Emmanuel Macron to discuss the ongoing crisis involving North Korea. Jane?
Thanks, John. Working with the president on extending legal protection for so-called dreamers didn't win House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi many fans at this gathering in San Francisco.
We are listening. Do you want answers?
President Trump doing away with DACA, giving Congress 6 months to come up with a solution for young immigrants brought here illegally as children. Those protesters want amnesty for all. Fox News, fair and balanced.
In this tight labor market, finding new employees can be tough. Whether you're the business owner or an HR professional, you want access to highly qualified candidates fast. More than 3 million businesses use Indeed.com, the world's #1 job site. Whether you need entry-level or highly skilled employees, no matter the industry, with Indeed you get immediate access to a high-quality pool of talent with no long-term contracts or upfront fees. For a limited time, Indeed is offering new users a $50 credit to make their first job listing a sponsored job. with premium visibility so more candidates will see it. You want to make a great hire fast, and this exclusive offer gives you a head start. Independent research shows 6 times more hires are delivered through Indeed than any other job site, making Indeed your one-stop source for hiring. To redeem this offer, go to Indeed.com/offer. That's Indeed.com/offer. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply.
Louis demonstrators marching in the street again today.
We will win together.
It's been a busy 4 days of protest after a judge on Friday acquitted a white former police officer of first-degree murder charges in the shooting of a black motorist. At least 80 people arrested late last night when some of the protesters got combative with the cops. One taken into custody, a St. Louis Dispatch reporter. Weary cops trying desperately to clear the streets early this morning, having a tough time with that.
Both had been foster children at the same home.
That is a story about what's going on in London. Details emerging about the 2 young refugees in custody in a London terror plot linked to ISIS. And Fox's Benjamin Hall has more on them.
Both had been foster children at the same home. On Saturday, one of the men, an 18-year-old, thought to be an Iraqi orphan, was arrested in Dover Port, waiting for a ferry to leave the country. A 21-year-old from Syria was also detained in London 4 years after he arrived from the war-torn country.
That attack could have been serious, and it was to some degree.
The homemade bomb partially exploded in a train at Parsons Green Station, injuring 30 people in the morning rush hour. It's believed that had the bomb exploded as intended, it could have killed and injured hundreds. Now a search is on to discover if others were involved in the plot.
4 female Boston College students attacked with acid yesterday at a train station in Marseille, France, say they have forgiven their assailant. She's a 41-year-old woman. 2 of the students got hit in the eye with what one of them said was a weak solution of hydrochloric acid, and she is asking people to consider praying for their attacker. Police say the woman is mentally ill. I'm Jane Metzler, Fox News Radio.
Sponsored by TheraWorks Relief. To relieve muscle cramps in your legs and feet, use TheraWorks Relief. This fast-acting foam is clinically proven to relieve leg and foot cramps. TheraWorks Relief can even prevent muscle cramps. Get TheraWorks Relief today at TheraWorksRelief.com.
Stuck in traffic? We've got the answer.
We have troubles in New Jersey on the eastbound side of Route 3 in Rutherford, right by Route 17. It's an accident being cleared. Once you're east of the collision, pretty good ride on to 495 and right into the Lincoln Tunnel. Outbound Lincoln Tunnel under a 5-minute wait. Outbound Holland Tunnel a 10 to 15-minute delay. Citybound side, we're doing all right. Really not a bad ride with the George Washington Bridge, despite inbound lower-level construction on the right side of the roadway. That should be wrapping up sometime between now and 3:30. Now, if you're trying to get to the George Washington Bridge, West Side Highway is still better than the East Side, that's for sure. FDR Drive northbound is slow from the 20s up into the 70s, and again 150s to the GW Bridge. But on the west side, you're good to go right up and onto the bridge. Westbound Cross Bronx, a slow ride from the Bronx River Parkway to the GW Bridge, and the Deacon northbound slows RFK Triborough to the Cross Bronx Expressway. Really not bad on the southbound side. Mostly cloudy skies tonight, chance of a shower, low 67. Cloudy skies, rain likely from Jose. Tomorrow, it'll be breezy as well with a high of 73. And now you know how not to go. I am Mike Barker on AM 970, The Answer.
It's Michael Medved on AM 970, The Answer.
Start to this great week. The Emmy Awards are over. Mother gets a raring reception at the box office. President Trump gives a speech at the UN, a little speech. The big speech is tomorrow. And President Trump is right on target. He's just fine. Some problematic tweets. Okay. Meanwhile, Republicans getting ready to gather up the votes, believe it or not, to replace Obamacare. This is a big deal, and it's very good news. And Democrats begin the week, or at least left-wing activists begin the week, in idiotic shouting and screaming and hysteria around the country, but particularly in San Francisco, where they are extremely out of sorts with Nancy Pelosi. Why? I don't know. And meanwhile, $600,000 of your money, taxpayer money, well, your money if you're in the state of California, goes to protecting Ben Shapiro, actually, from crazy people who wanted to shut him up. We'll be talking to Ben Shapiro a little bit later on the show. What is it that led the University of California at Berkeley to need to spend that kind of money to protect this mainstream conservative guy? We're not talking about a member of the alt-right. We're not talking about somebody who's way out on the edge. We're talking about Ben Shapiro. We'll be getting to him, and we'll also be speaking with Arthur Brooks about the importance of conducting politics in a way that deals with people rather than abstractions. 1-800-955-1776, our phone number. First off, in San Francisco today, this morning, Nancy Pelosi was speaking in favor of the DREAM Act. And basically, I think most Americans, when they hear what it actually is, and when I say most, I mean over 80% of Americans support the DREAM Act. There are very, very few Americans. I know there are some, and there are some on talk radio, but there are very few real people out there in the grassroots, a small percentage, who actually think it should be necessary or desirable to take people who have been doing the right thing, going to school, graduating from high school, working at jobs, going to college, paying taxes, going in, coming out of the shadows, people who have qualified as dreamers under DACA and gotten work permits. There's not a great desire to deport them. Well, at least there wasn't until today. Today, Nancy Pelosi was doing an event in San Francisco, her home base, and she was speaking at a place called the College Track San Francisco on 3rd Avenue in the city. And she was there to express support for the DREAM Act, where President Trump has indicated, yes, he will support it also, because President Trump strongly agrees, and more power to him, that it would be a disaster to try to deport the Dreamers. It's much better to focus on MS-13, to focus on violent criminals, to focus on bad hombres, and others who do, in fact, need to be deported. But before Nancy Pelosi even got a chance to speak, there were a number of, quote, immigrant activists who had their own message. Okay. Undocumented and unafraid. We are the immigrant youth. We demand to be heard. We demand a clean bill. What they seem to be objecting to, and I'm trying to figure it out, because, I mean, there are very few people who have been more pro-immigrant than Nancy Pelosi. Why are they shouting at her and getting so angry? And as far as I can gather, after trying to investigate this for a little while, what is making them angry is the idea that she actually met with Trump. Yeah, that's right. They said you were supposed to resist him, not work with him. Well, what about working with him to try to deal with a problem that a lot of people in that crowd who are chanting and screaming and going crazy would have, which is a problem that your parents brought you here when you were kids and you don't have any papers. And President Trump now wants to give you papers. So shouldn't Nancy Pelosi work with the president? 1-800-955-1776. Apparently they think not. They carried on. And at one point, when Nancy Pelosi tried to speak, it sounded like this.
We have said to everyone, be very careful, report to us any deportations because they're telling us they're not happening. And wait a minute. Listen, if you do not...
Where were you? When we asked?
They've never asked.
Now you tell us. You have the audacity. You tell us. You have been fighting deportation.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. You do not.
You are a liar. You are a liar. Okay, actually, this may make Dreamers more popular with some folks in the GOP base because they're shouting at Nancy Pelosi, "You are a liar." They're right about that, but they're not right about it on this particular issue. This, of course, raises, to me, a basic question. What is it that the demonstrators want other than getting on TV or getting on the radio? I mean, this is earlier today. Frankly, this is not a terrible moment for the United States. It's not a terrible moment for the Trump administration. The market is up again, people having confidence in the economy. There are reports that the Republican Party is coming together and may have the 50 votes that they need to move Lindsey Graham's bill through the U.S. Senate. Tax reform, which would make a real difference to every single American family, would make a real difference to our economy, to jobs. Tax reform is a very real possibility. We're on the verge of actually getting things done for the people. And meanwhile, what these folks in San Francisco are doing is screaming and shouting about what? 1-800-955-1776. One of the articles about this, an article by a local TV station in San Francisco, KTVU, says they are objecting to the idea that, well, first of all, they chanted, "You met with Trump and you call that resistance?" He's the president of the United States. She's the minority leader in the House of Representatives. You have that, Jeremy?
And last week you announced that you had agreed with President Trump, and I quote you, to work out a package of border security. Your words. Or were you misquoted? We cannot say, however, we are surprised. We remember all too well how for 8 years the Democrats laid siege to our communities.
Okay, what they're talking about is deporting people. The Democrats laid siege to our community. And this is one of the facts. Barack Obama deported a lot of people, about 600,000. Now, most of the people who were deported eminently deserved it. Because one area where everybody ought to agree, right? I mean, except apparently some of the people who are shouting, is that if you are a criminal of any kind, you should be, as a criminal, and I don't mean someone with an immigration infraction, violent crime or property destruction,